Cool. Thank you all of you for joining this free webinar on Scaled Agile Framework and also Azure DevOps. I know most of you are really curious on these topics, and I requested my good friend and very highly qualified trainer with name Praveen. He's from India. He's going to help us with the overview of what is this safe scaled agile all about, and also he's going to deep dive into using the Azure DevOps board. Most of you are my students, and we are very good, very familiar with the usage of the Jira boards and everything in real time. But we have seen in some of the job descriptions here and there, they are asking Azure DevOps, not here and there, a significant amount of companies, they started asking Azure DevOps, and Microsoft is leading the space actually. Yeah. So it is important to understand how to use that tool as well. So my Praveen is having extensive experience, the real-time experience in that area, and he's going to help us with the Azure DevOps board as well. And towards the end, we will open the floor for Q&A. Okay, you can ask any number of questions. We are here. I will be here. Praveen will be here. And maybe the safe is like maybe around 40 minutes, and Azure DevOps is like we are targeting around 40 minutes, another 10-15 minutes for question and answers. So let us closely reserve 1 hour 30 minutes easily. Okay, team, is my voice clear? Greg, kindly please check your speaker. Please check your speaker, Greg. Cool. Okay, team, I'm just inviting my friend Praveen. I will just give the permission to Praveen. Praveen, could you please unmute?
Yes. Hey,
Cool.
good morning.
Hi, Praveen.
Yeah, thanks,
And
Greg.
I'm going to make you the host. And Praveen, I want you to mute everyone, please,
Mhm, mhm.
just to avoid the background noise recording, because
Yep,
we are going
yep,
to share this recording on the YouTube with everyone.
yep. Okay. So with this, I would like to thank everyone for joining, making your time for 1.5 hours, 2 hours this morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you're joining from. And let's get on to the board. So today we are going to discuss about SAFe, and there has been a lot of projection about SAFe in the market, right? People are asking, a lot of scaled agile models, and it includes Scrum. It can also be part of your Kanban. But what is SAFe all about? Okay, so we are now learning a new jargon, which is scaled agile framework, and it is nothing new. We are scaling, right? So we are adding more teams, we are adding like more programs and portfolios to your existing process to make a good quality, better products. Okay. So I would like to have a small introduction with you all. So maybe, you can scan this code, and or maybe you can use slido.com and enter the number 1402952. Let me. The code is 1402952. I would like to understand, what level of the Scrum knowledge you have or Agile knowledge you have, so that based on that we can modify the webinar itself, like so that we all would be with the same pace. The first question that I'm going to ask here with this is, what is Agile for you? So describe that in 1 or 2 words. And once you scan the code with your camera, either it could be Apple or Android, it will give you a link. Open the link, and the first one, it gives you what is Agile. So you need to type your answer. Okay, somebody typed the number itself. It's a mindset. Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. And it's more than a mindset. It's all about action that we do to perform what we wanted. Okay, so Agile Manifesto says it gives us an ability to uncover the better ways to perform the work that we are doing. Okay, so most of the people, they think, Agile is only for software, only for programming, only for this, but it can be implemented everywhere. However, when they started, it was only focused on software development, and hence most of the people are using in software development practices. But now it has put its more farther into like hardware, aircraft development, defense, and whatnot. So every field is now using agile, and to use that agile at a scale level, so we need some more practices. So apart from the 12 principles and 4 values and other frameworks and practices, right? So we got to build on top of that to scale it to the next level. And excellent answers like values, flexible, iterative, incremental, organization. Great, great. Okay, what is your experience with Agile and Scrum? So maybe those who have started, you can say none, or maybe familiar with practices, or only attended the class and theory, or with higher experience, like proven track record of success, if you have been working since last 2, 3, 4 years. Great, great. So we got multiple people uh, distributed on 1, 2, 3. Okay, great, great. And what are the challenges that you face in day-to-day work life? So when you have worked with a Scrum team or Agile team, so whatever that you call, right? What are the day-to-day challenges that you face? So somebody is asking report, somebody is asking like not performing well, or you're not able to deliver on time. Ambiguity, excellent, excellent. Uncertainty, unclear requirements. Okay, somebody says no prior experience in Agile. It's okay. It's okay. We are all learning together. Collaboration is missing. Communicating vision effectively is missing. Team politics. Updating the board with the proper status. Yes, yes. These are all day-to-day activities. I mean, so maybe for some teams it's less. For some teams it's a huge problem that they create. Okay, non-cooperation from teams, no clarity and direction of the teams, no prior experience. hmm hmm Okay, great. Lack of awareness about the Scrum process itself. Managing the dependencies, stakeholder not mapping. Okay, great, great, great. So we are going to address using the scaled agile framework, at least not to eliminate every problem that you have, but to reduce the impact that it is going to give us on the delivery. Roadmap to team of teams. It is nothing but on top of our Scrum framework, where we talk about only one team. So in Scrum framework, we only have one team where the maximum size of the team that is guided, that is suggested by Scrum Guide is 10, and you have a Scrum Master, you have a product owner, so everybody is called as a developer, and they can do a cross-functional skill set. Okay, this is all good. But are we able to deliver a product or a service or a solution to the customer with only 10-member team? And if yes, how long it would take? So to answer this question, the organizations have come up with the Scrum is doing well, but not helping us to create monolithic or sophisticated products which are complex in nature. And they said, hey, let's use multiple Scrum teams to make your product backlog, okay, and divide that into sprint backlog and deliver it, and combine it or integrate it at the end of the sprint and deliver it to the clients. But somehow we have had a couple of mismatches of understanding the clarity itself, or a vision, collaboration, communication, and all the problems that you have given. But the problems have been faced by multiple organizations, especially the product-based organizations. So now we are talking about team of teams, how to collaborate multiple teams where they have a common goal. Again, the scaled agile framework works well if you have a common goal. If you are independent team, if you are a scattered team, and you're working well in Scrum or Agile or project management or any kind of a framework, you don't need to scale because you don't have a common goal. And that is the first principle. Based on that, we go for the scaling. And scaling, you need to have a multiple teams where they all work on a common goal. any framework that you learn, even Scrum framework or Scaled Agile or less, there are maybe 100 plus customized frameworks in the market available, which have been approved, and there are 40 plus where multiple organizations are practicing to date. We need to understand the purpose. It is not like, hey, there is an availability of a framework like Scrum, Kanban, XP, or Safe, and I don't want to go there and then start practicing. There has to be a purpose. Can anyone say in the comment, what is the purpose of moving to Scrum? If something was working well, what made us to choose Scrum as our framework? Mhm. To meet market changes, to be able to respond to rapid change, process oriented, flexibility. What else? Delivering value, fast, early view. Okay. Exactly. Early feedback, iterative, and incremental approach. So, what most of us would think that the Agile or Scrum would make any delivery fast. The answer is no. Agile and Scrum will not make any deliverable fast, but it will make a deliverable frequent. There is a difference. Anything which it would take, like maybe in a waterfall documentation and all, it would take 9 months. Still in Agile or Scrum framework, if you adopt the new continuous learning processes, it might still take 9 months or little less, maybe 5 to 10% here and there, but it won't make it half. It won't make it maybe 9 weeks. It would still take the same amount of time, but the difference is you get a faster feedback, you get a quality work, and you understand what you need, and you adapt the requirement changes, the changes in whatever that you want to do, and how your product should be delivered to your customers. So we adapt everything and we continuously take feedback and deliver it to the client. And that's the difference. It is not a fast, it is a frequent. And the purpose is, earlier we were not taking a frequent feedback, but now we are taking a frequent feedback. Every sprint maybe could be of 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and 4 weeks. So based on your product development choice. And there are multiple factors to decide on the sprint length itself. The purpose is to get the frequent feedback, right? And the scaling purpose. So let us now discuss about scaling purpose. Like we've discussed about collaboration, communication, the vision, and dependency mapping, vision not aligned to everyone. And these are all the problems that we were solving. Yes, the scaled agile framework will solve those problems and make sure that everybody is aligned to the common mission and vision. And similar to Scrum, we have a scaling role who are called as release train engineer and product manager and your development teams. And artifacts, similar to the Scrum framework, we do have artifacts and events. Yes. So we do have a PI planning and demos. You have some kind of a retrospective problem solving workshop. And these are all the events which are mandatory at a program level or maybe at a art. We are now learning a new language. Let us assume that for me, Scale Agile is like a new language which nobody has gone to or nobody has seen, right? When we learn language, you get new jargons, new words, right? So similar to that, we are now going to explore PI planning, ART, Agile Release Trainer, RT, Release Train Engineer, and so on. So they're not hard, they're easy, but only thing is like we need to get used to it and practice. So these are the 40 Agile methods which are available in the market, and they are approved. So what we are talking about in the bottom left, bottom right, you have a scaled agile framework safe, and there are other frameworks also. So what we are trying to do is exactly the meaning of agility, the mindset, or the iterative development, and incremental development. The same thing, we are trying to scale it to the organization, scale it to the program, scale it to the portfolio or a business. And one of that scaling framework is Scaled Agile framework, which has been popularized. And there are other frameworks which are available in the market who are like, large scale Scrum, enterprise Scrum, X scale. You have something called Spotify. Okay, on the top left, you have certain frameworks which are at a team level, Scrum, XP, Crystal, DSDM. So the popularized framework that we all know is called as Scrum. And then we can still use Kanban and XP and a combination of different frameworks. This is not exactly the difference between Scrum and Safe, but as you already know about Scrum, I'm just giving you insights. Hey, what is Scrum? And then what we are learning in Safe. Scrum deals with relatively small, collocated, and cross-functional teams. So whereas Safe, it deals with a bigger team located across the geography. So in Scrum, we suggest to have entire team in one location so that they have a face-to-face communication, and all the events that they're going to understand and attend will be at one place, one time, at the same place, same time. But in Safe, we all know after COVID what has happened. Like, so people are working distributedly, hybrid, remotely, and so large team is impossible to get in one location based on the cost factors that we all know. These people divide based on the geography or teams or vendor and product company, and they all still can have one common goal and work together as part of the team. Scrum is an iterative method of product development, primarily focusing on regular delivery. And in Safe, we define an approach for scaling Scrum to make it work for bigger enterprises. We are still using Scrum at a team level, even though we use Safe. Okay, that's the fundamental thing that we all need to know. Scrum is popularized, is proven framework, is an experimental framework, which is going to help all to experiment and to deliver by taking continuous feedback. That we are going to use it at a team level. Every team is using the same. And on top, we have a collaborative framework. We have a dependency mapping framework, so which we are calling it as the Scaled Agile framework. And in Scrum, you have a Scrum Master, product owner, no middle manager. But however, when it comes to Safe, you call it as a Agile release train and a portfolio at a 2 layers, okay, under your enterprise. So these guys will help us to monitor or track the progress of how deliverables are happening and what kind of a help, with escalation metric, with support functions, and removal of impediments, facilitating the larger events. So these are the roles of the middle persons who are on top of your Scrum team. Okay, so we're going to talk about them. And the product delivery is handled by Scrum teams consisting of maximum of 10 members here, and Safe. So the smallest unit is your team, and on top, you call it as a train. A train is a combination of multiple teams, which we say team of teams. And how many teams that you can have? Similar to the Scrum guidance of 10 members. So we also have a 10 teams. Close to 125 to 150 members can be part of one train. And if I have a 2 teams, can I run a train? I mean, it's a costly affair for a lot of us. If I have 2 teams, 3 teams, it is not beneficial to use Scrum framework. At least team level, if you have a 2 members, 3 members, it is not beneficial to use a Scrum framework itself, because you need to hire a Scrum Master and product owner and run all the events for only 3 members. So rather, we would say a minimum size of 5 members to start with. And similar to that, here we say a 5 teams is the minimum team, and less than 5, that is 4, 3. So we don't suggest to use Safe until unless you have the prescribed, the demand or a need for solving your own problems. And when it comes to Scrum at a team level, it gives you an excellent result, but it misses out the various essential factors about like how to talk to the other teams, or maybe how to integrate your efforts to a different thing, how to learn from the feedback of the entire system itself. So we say like, hey, product owner will help us whatever the problem or a feedback that we need to get with respect to the content, and the Scrum Master will help with respect to the process. Okay, this team is getting shielded by these 2 guys, and we will be going to complete the work that is assigned to us, that is given to us. But however, there are various factors, so we need to consider, and those all factors will be considered in safe. And we have a different events where we understand like a POCing. So when you don't understand the real meaning of the request or user story, so you can go to PO and then ask, and it is not only the PO, right? You can directly have an access to the business owner who gives you the request, and you have the ecosystem of POs, the ecosystem of Scrum Masters who can help us if it is not solved by the team itself, right? If sometimes like you have a deadline and you are unable to deliver your assigned work items, so you can take help from the other teams. You can seek guidance. You can negotiate on the work request. So by telling them the real reasons, by transparency is the key here. So we follow the transparency and tell them that, hey, we have estimated this and we are not able to deliver with a lot of reasons, and help me. So there are some teams who can pitch in to take up a couple of work items. There are some business owners who will say a negotiation that, okay, we will remove the scope from here so that we will be able to deliver the minimum viable product at the end of the sprint, at the end of the PI. The purpose of team of teams. So if it is a one team, like maybe you talk about the current Scrum team, you have a product backlog, and then that is converted into sprint backlog, and your team takes care of the sprint backlog based on the prioritization, based on the capacity available, and this is all we know. But however, if the backlog is more where we need multiple teams to work on this backlog, and you can hire a product manager, or maybe one of the PO can act as a product manager or a supervisor, and they can divide based on their capacity, and each team can complete the work and integrate and deliver it to the clients. But this works only until 4 teams, right? You can manage. But this kind of a work, if it crosses more than 4, that is 5, 6, 7, assume that there are 12 teams working on one common product backlog. Okay, it is impossible to manage with one meeting or whatever that planning that you have. So for that, we have a new future state which we are going to learn is a scaled agile framework, where we say you have a common product backlog, and we call them as ART backlog now. So agile release train backlog, and the work item name, we name it as a feature. Feature is nothing but a bigger user story, a bigger requirement, not more than that. And we divide that bigger requirement into smaller requirements and understand what team is capable of doing and which team that we need to assign, or maybe so it could be sometimes directly to one team, it could be divided into multiple teams, or sometimes if the feature is small enough, we can give multiple features to one team, and we all plan in one meeting. We call this as a PI planning event. Scaling, what we are trying to do here, we are trying to make the size and the complexity of the project with a better structure and uncertainty into agile and flexible practices. On top of our agile principles and values, we are adding now scaled agile principles and values to augment the work deliverables. We are not talking about a 100% team, a bigger team, and this will never feel like a 6% team which we have been working, or a 10% team which we have been working with a Scrum framework. But each can definitely be agile, and the key is appropriately applying that agile principles. How can we apply the principles to make them agile? Because agile is all about mindset, we all know. But how can we bring that mindset into deliverable practices? So now we are going to talk about organizational design, decision-making design, and collaboration coordination design, and agile culture. So we have, apart from the Scrum team, the events, so we are not going to move out of this Scrum team events, right? So we are going to complete them at the team level and deliver whatever is assigned to the team. And now multi-level release planning, multi-team backlog management, and process and tools to release to handle 10 different teams for a common product backlog and planning and collaboration tools. So these are all the things which will help us to manage it effectively. Structural design of organization. Okay, so now we are talking about a more people, right? The more you have, again, the more worries we have, more communication, more decisions, more meetings, and more documents. And we should not forget something which is more politics. Okay, so this is, I mean, this is everywhere. So unwritten truth. Introduction to SAFe. So what SAFe is going to bring to the table and solve the problem, because if there is no problem, don't use SAFe. If there is no problem, don't use Scrum. We are trying to solve the problem by using a framework. If everybody understands the requirements, if everybody knows what needs to be built, we don't need any feedback. It is clear, and we can deliver. The team is capable of delivering, and you don't need Scrum. You can happily use your project management or SDLC process, because there is no feedback that is required. So whatever the requirements that is given to you on day one, and maybe the day 10, day 30, whatever the dates that you see, they'll come and collect and see the result. The similar concept applies here. If you don't have a problem of collaboration, coordination, communication, and dependency negotiation, right, we don't need SAFe. If the teams are capable of delivering, helping themselves, we don't need something else to come and sit out on top of us. But however, in an ideal situation that happens, but in regular day-to-day work life, so we don't see that kind of a collaboration, and hence we are looking for multiple ways to identify, to set the process. Okay, so these are just an introduction. The value proposition is you will get with the SAFe implementation increased employee engagement, productivity, quality, and time to market. And as I said, like, we have added 10 different SAFe principles and core values. The challenges that organization face today. So whatever that you said are excellent, are correct. But on top of that, with respect to a team, which is part of the system itself, these are the common challenges. Misaligned priorities. If there are multiple teams, they have taken the features, the requirements from the backlog, but team one says that, hey, this is not high priority. My product owner said, like, this is of low priority. The other team says, hey, this is my high priority one. What happens? Like, the team one will not work until unless they have capacity to work on, but the team three already starts working on it, and they are looking for something on dependency, some work to be done by team one, and it won't happen. And it might happen, but you won't integrate at the same time. Even if you complete it by team three, will not be able to deliver it to the client because it is not fully done. We are still waiting for some other team to work on. Rather, if we give the same priorities to all the teams that, hey, choose this, and you need to collaborate, and you need to complete on so and so time. So they should be able to communicate, complete it, and deliver it to the client, rather than sitting and maybe in the ADO or Jira, you say that this is closed, but waiting on something else. It is still considered as in progress, but the client is not going to use it. Lack of alignment. And whatever the work that we do, we need to align with the dependent teams. We need to align with the integration teams and look for the common purpose. Hey, what did we inform the business about this? When are we going to release it? What are the benefits that this feature is going to give it to the client? Align to these concepts. And operations in silos, like if every team works in different way, in different technology, in different format, you don't have a common architecture, you don't have a common communication, no common APIs or microservices, and everybody is writing their own code, right? So you should be having a common modules where one team writes, or maybe they are already existing methods, classes, and the functions, but we are not using them. We are recreating it. That means we are introducing waste in the system. That is because you are operating in silos, that you're not talking to the other team. If you would have spoken, so the only thing is you might have wasted a couple of minutes of time, but it would save you from redoing multiple things. So this is what we trust: individuals and interactions over process and tools, and competing priorities. So what we generally want is complementing priorities, right? So team one, team two should work together. They should not fight with each other. They should not compete with each other that, hey, I work on this feature, but this is not my priority. Okay. So on top of that, we have multiple other challenges in one-liners. Let us assume that there are 10 different teams. So could be Scrum, Kanban, or development team, or project management team, or any kind of a team, but they have a common goal. Now, the challenges that we can see: too many team members to collaborate, manage, work together, lack of common goal, lack of coordination, development not in synchronization, unmapped dependencies, creating the problems, teams are not working in cadence, the multiple sources of requirements. These are taken after taking a survey or interview with multiple agile teams. Some teams, they say, hey, we are in Kanban, nobody should ask me. Some teams say we are in 2 weeks sprint. Somebody says we are in 3 weeks sprint. No, I need one more week to deploy whatever is assigned to the team. We can't promise the end customer that, hey, we will be able to communicate, we will be able to deliver it on time. We need to have a common cadence for the teams, at least who are working for a common product backlog. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to bring all of these teams into one setup, and we call this as the essential safe. This is the basic safe framework that we are going to follow. Is all the teams who are working for a common goal, common product, are going to be brought to one place, and we call this as a ART, Agile Release Train. And we have supporting roles who are release train engineer, who acts as a chief scrum master. We have a system architect. We have a product manager who acts as the chief product owner. And we also have a business owner. In Scrum framework, what we say, your product owner is the highest authority, and he will give you all the content and requirements and clarity. Now we are talking about a bigger problems, and there could be more questions, more clarity required. So, and hence we have added the guys who are giving us the requirements into the system. They will be available to the teams along with your product owner, the first point of contact. The second point of contact is product manager, who is the chief product owner, and you have a business owner. If there is a clarity required that you don't need to wait until like maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get the response, you can get an immediate response. You can invite them in your demos, in your reviews, in your planning meeting, so that you get an immediate clarity about that. And there is another level of solution safe, we call, and you have multiple ARTs like Agile Release Train. So you earlier we used to call them programs, and we all bring them together, and we say it is a large solution safe. But less than 1% of the teams are following large solution. So you have supervisors like solution train engineer, solution architect, solution manager, and customer. There is one thing that we need to understand: system architect or maybe engineering architect. At a team level, we never had an opportunity to work with an architect, because at team level, we are solving a small problem. And we are only one team, so we have an ability, like every developer has an ability to design and implement the functionality that they are working on. But now at a system level, at a multiple teams level, we need to have certain principles, certain standard to work with. Otherwise, we are going to lose our time to deliver, right? To align, I mean, again, bringing back to the principles, to align, to make it a lean. So we need certain standards and practices which should be followed by multiple teams, and we are calling them as part of our system architect. The next one is your scaled agile framework. So this is a pictorial representation. What you see, there is a website scaledagileFramework.com at the end of the session. So I'll be giving all the links to that. If you want to see, you can also browse the scaledagileFramework.com. And this is the essential safe. If you see here, this is the essential safe that we are going to work upon in any organization to start with. So what do we have here? Agile teams, which we all know, we have been working with agile teams, and we are adding another layer on top of it. The first one is you have a RTE, system architect and product manager on top of this. And let us say there are 10 teams in the ART, that is your bigger team. So ART means a big team of multiple teams. If you see here the picture of a train which says Agile Release Train and has multiple parts to it, so that means a train has multiple teams which has a common goal, and reaching the common goal with the help of collaboration and coordination between all the teams. It need not be 10, so could be between like 5 is the minimum and 12 is the maximum. And if you have more teams, let us say 18 teams, I want to have a train because they all work for one common goal. You divide that into 2 trains and you can still use one common ART backlog. So what we generally do, so we take when we meet together, because we should not waste our time, right? So when we meet together, it is impossible to meet for every sprint by all 10 Scrum teams. And we are talking about a collaborating between like 120 to 150 members. Every sprint is a waste of time. And that's the reason we have done a lot of iterations and the implementation itself. And we thought that instead of every sprint, let us meet every 5 sprint. And when we meet, we discuss about what we are going to work on every 5 sprints. And that has helped all the organization to save time. And also, when we meet, we call this as a PI planning, that is planning interval meeting. And the interval itself is a 5 iterations. So iteration is nothing but a sprint, and we are using a different naming convention. So you can use based on your choice. Sprint or iteration are the same. When we meet for 2 days, we call it as a PI planning meeting. All the teams, our team members, developers, RT, including business owners, stakeholder, everybody must join this meeting or an event. And we discuss about the dependencies, estimations, alignment, and your deliverables and release dates and all whatnot. Okay, so this is the first level of safe. And if you have a multiple trains to be part of a common solution, so you can use a solution safe. So in the actual session, we are going to talk about that. And there is something called a portfolio where all of these guys would now report to the portfolio. So to give an example, like Microsoft is an example of the safe implementation. So the enterprise or a portfolio is called as something on top you see something called as the enterprise is Microsoft, and they have a lot of businesses which is Windows is one business, Azure cloud is another business. They have LinkedIn, they are into gaming, they are into social networking, they were into OS development, server installation, they are into AI implementation. Okay, so they are into every business, right? Each business is called as a portfolio, and each portfolio will have multiple solutions that they cater. Some solutions will be for enterprises, some other solutions will be for your student edition or home editions, or normal B2B people or C2C people. Okay, so you can cater to every other businesses, and there are some solutions that are available. Okay, and finally you have a products. So one product that I can talk about is your Microsoft Excel as such. So now they're creating Excel as a product or a service, and they are giving it online. So I don't need to buy anything Office 365. I can just pay half the amount or maybe a quarter the amount and try to use online Excel version. And that is the product that they are serving to the customers. And you have a lot of different products. Like Cortana is one product, and Microsoft Edge, the browser itself is a product. And you have multiple teams to work on each product. So there are multiple configuration, as I said. Essential is is where everybody should start with. And most of the people, they end here because there is no need for us to go for the second or third level of configuration. But there are multiple configuration like portfolio, last solution, and full configuration is where the entire organization, whatsoever number of trains are participating in that organization, so will be reporting to the lean portfolio manager, we call. Iteration one. So as I said, there are 4 iterations and followed by the 5th iteration, which we call as IP iteration, innovation and planning iteration. So here, iteration one is a combination of your development and QA. Whenever, like even in the normal, the Scrum framework that we use, right? You should not say, hey, development is done and QA is still pending or something. The bugs are still pending. So we need to work on bug. And can you accept? No, the answer is no. Whatsoever the number of user stories that we have picked as part of our sprint backlog, it must be ready to be deployable. It must serve the purpose that we say working software. It should not be like working in your organization or in your local environment. It should be a working software where the customer readily make use of the features or benefits of that. To say that, so we need to complete our dev and QA effort and integration or whatsoever the efforts for each of the organization that we use. And team 1, team 2, 3, and 4. So because of the space constraints, I've only taken 4 teams, but you can add as many teams that your organization is participating in the ART, Agile Release Train. Iteration 1 should be complete and all the teams must integrate their efforts and you need to complete a demo. Demonstration is not your review meeting or review event. It is after the review event that you call the business people. So you remember that we have added the business people. You invite the stakeholders and the business people and tell them that, hey, we have developed our sprint 1. Can you check and give us the feedback? And then we go for iteration 2, iteration 3, iteration 4, and then we go for IP iteration. IP iteration is another a factor. Like, so we wanted to innovate. We wanted to have an innovation, creative product. So to build that, so there should be some extra time that we need to spend. And couple of times, like what we know, teams will not be able to deliver whatever that they've promised. So they need an additional time. And this is what has been happening in the industry, right? In the recent survey that said like more than 60% of the teams have not completed their sprint goal in the last 10 sprints. There might be a lot of reasons, right? The reasons could be the developers are unavailable or they're taking ad hoc leaves or unplanned leaves or requirements are missing or clarity is missing or acceptance criteria is not as per the requirement, not as per what is asked. And the testers are not supporting, alignment, vendor reasons. Any there could be multiple reasons, but the teams are not able to meet their sprint goal. And now iteration after iteration, like if we are pushing it, the client is getting suffered. We've already promised the end customer that we are going to deliver it, but we are pushing it. Now, what Scaled Agile has assumed that we should not be missing our promise. Whatever that promised work that we have made as part of the collaborative team, we need to deliver it to the end customer. And we need certain time to evaluate, to verify. So what generally happens with the Scrum team? So we are completing our development in the first week or maybe in the mid of second week, and we are rushing it to testing, and we are trying to complete testing. If there are any bugs, we raise it, and we go to the product owner on the last day and we get it reviewed. But what happens? The product owner might accept or might not accept, and that stays there. But the customer is still expecting, and that goes to the next sprint. That goes to the next sprint, and we call it as a spillover. But there is nothing called as a spillover. You can call it as an incomplete work, and there is no time for that to review whatever that we have done. It is very, very important to complete your reviews. It will reduce your technical debt, the technical challenges, maybe that on an oversight you might have added in your code. So now there is no time for team to complete the work items, and now you're asking us to review the code which has been done. So to overcome all these challenges, to cater to different needs and requirements, including the learnings, including innovation experiments and all, so we said after 4 sprints, so we are going to add another sprint where we are not going to take any kind of a work, but purely we will verify, we will validate, we will integrate, we will demo, we will learn together, we will do some kind of training sessions, workshops, or learning sessions, and finally we will plan for our next PI. That we need 2 days to plan together, and that we are calling it as a PI planning. And remember, before your sprint planning, you do your refinement. Similar to refinements, we also have a preparation for PI planning, and the remaining 8 days we will use it for preparation for PI planning. So this is saving our time. This is making us a better execution, better implementation when we go for next PI. And PI 1 is complete. We go for PI 2, again 4 iterations, followed by IP iteration, again 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and followed by IP iteration. And this is in the vertical line that we say earlier was vertical and now it is horizontal. We say the first one is the PI1, PI2, PI3, and we get a train. So this is our agile release train, which will complete the PI1 scope of work and then go to PI2 and then PI3, and we'll be able to deliver the promised deliverables to the customers. So how do we get our team layer? Okay, the first one is facilitating with all the Scrum Masters. The Scrum Masters, the SAFE is now calling them as a team coaches. You are capable of coaching your team, mentoring, facilitating, and guiding the team. So earlier we used to call it a Scrum of Scrum, so which happens every week, maybe once or twice based on the complexity of the product, the backlog management. So let us assume that there is only 1 week, maybe week 1, week 2, 2 meetings per sprint, and RT is going to facilitate the event, and all the Scrum Masters, they come there and they talk about like the transparency, where are we going, where are we heading, our burn up chart, our burn down chart, and any impediments or any outliers or any clarity requirements, negotiations required, and whatnot. We will discuss all, and this is to discuss the progress towards completion of our objectives. So in Scrum, we have something called sprint goals, and in SAFE, they are the similar thing, but we call them as an objective. PI planning, we go there, we decide what kind of objectives that each team has got for each of the iteration. If there are 4 teams, so let us say 4 sprints and 10 teams, there will be like close to 40 different objectives that all the teams collectively have to complete, and these objectives will align to overall PI objectives, and that will align to the features that were given to us in the art backlog. So we will now discuss about the progress of how these objectives are going and what kind of a dependencies, what kind of internal and external. So let us say we are 10 teams and 1 team is dependent on external vendor, external team. So now RT is going to help them to bridge the gap, or maybe to have a connection between the external vendor or external team, external ART. There could be sometimes 2 trains. They need to work together and then work with each other to complete a certain product, right? So there is an RT will help them to have a collaboration. And POC, right? So with the name that you understand, all the product owners will meet the product manager to understand what could be done the next PI. So if we are into current PI, like maybe PI1, so these guys will meet to see, to refine, to understand, to gain the clarity, because they are the people who have to explain, right? First, they need to understand, and they will eliminate the uncertain thing, and they talk to the product experts. Okay, and one more time, like they also talk about the current PI. Okay, when we meet together every sprint, this is what the question that I have, or these are extra things that we were catering, and we are unable to do that. So earlier we were estimated it to be a wrong, and we have taken 2 more stories, but right now we can only work on 1 story. Is there anyone who can help us to complete the extra story, or can we negotiate on that? Negotiation plays a key role here. That hey, I have limited time, but I have 2 stories. Now tell me which story should you want, or should you want us to deliver? Next one is development integration. That so the numbers S1, S2, S3 are the sprints. That these are the teams, and we have completed like each team completes 4 iterations, and it is not mandatory to choose 4, right? It is similar to your sprint length. 2 weeks is a standard guidance, but you can still have 1 week or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? Similar to that, you can have a 5 weeks of working iteration and one IP iteration, and you can have a 6 weeks of working iteration and you can have IP iteration. That is total 7 iterations in one PI. It can vary based on your need, based on the organization choice, and how your work should be delivered. And also business owners will play a key role here, because they need to wait 7 sprints to get their product delivered, right? It is all based on the negotiation and the decision making system, and can be 2 weeks. The entire industry is following like each sprint is 2 weeks, but I have worked with the teams where each sprint would be 3 weeks. Okay, so it is a choice, and IP iteration is always 2 weeks. And when we started, we said like all the teams work on a Scrum framework, but now I'm tweaking that. There are certain teams where you can add a Kanban to the art, and we say this is shared services team. If the art is choosing one framework, like let us say if the art is choosing Scrum 2 weeks, every team should follow the Scrum framework with the 2 weeks of cadence. And there is some exception with the shared services team, which are like automation team or DevOps team or maybe support team, where they are following Kanban and they help all 10 different teams. Or you can choose the other way, that all teams are Kanban teams, and you have the support team is also Kanban team, which is quite good, because everybody is aligning to the common framework and common cadences for the delivery. And you should not have a mix, like one team is Kanban, the other team is Scrum with 2 weeks, the other team is Scrum with 3 weeks. And I don't have a common point where I say, hey, my sprint is complete and I need to deliver. And this is what we say integration. So the line that you see, the integration for the demo. And at the start of the IP iteration, so if you talk about this at the start of the PI, so we do the last 2 days. The difference between the PI planning and the sprint planning is our sprint planning starts on the day 1 of our sprint. And this is not even mandatory, like you can still start your sprint planning on the last day of your previous sprint, if time permits, if everyone agrees, because we wanted a cadence, not a an agreement, right? So an agreed cadence between all the team members. Now we are talking about a PI planning, and what we have decided is we cannot go onto the first couple of days of the entire PI, because there is no time for planning and all. As we have made some time for us available in the IP iteration for our innovation, learning, and collaboration working together, we can add those 2 days in the last 2 days, or maybe last but one day of IP iteration, so that we have a cadence, and then we can go to the next PI and start freshly of sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, and we have IP iteration, which is we don't work anything on the regular deliverables, and we work on reviews, validations, and other things. And the next one, and the last 2 days, we go for next PI planning, and that continues. And this is your inspect and adapt, which is nothing but your overall review and also your retrospective. This retrospective is called in the SAFe is problem solving workshop. So where all the team members, not only your Scrum team members, but entire ART teams will join, and we discuss about what could be done better and what kind of a problems that we have faced in the last PI. and how we can avoid that, right? So what we generally suggest is at a team level, you still have a retrospective, and those problems where it cannot be solved for your team with the help of your Scrum Master and product owner, bring them to the problem solving workshops. And also the other guidance is, if multiple teams are facing a problem, right? It could be a system problem, it could be, or maybe multiple teams are facing a similar kind of problem. So this is the right time or right place to discuss, so that all teams will give their insights and reflections, and we can go ahead and then work on the action items to resolve them. PI planning, day one, I will rush it. It is a crucial point, but however, we see that we need a certain time for our Q&A. So business context we'll discuss on the day one, along with the solution vision, architectural vision, and planning, the team breakouts, draft plan, and also the review meeting that, hey, what should we work on? How many features are there each team? What should we work on? What is the priority? And what are the objectives that we are going to work on for this PI? So in the first meeting, like for 1 hour, executive will give us the business context. Okay, what we are going to do, what is our SWOT analysis, what kind of a profits that we are expecting, and all business level, like what is the investment that we are going to put into the product development, who are our key stakeholders, what is the problem that we are trying to solve. So we discuss, and this is facilitated by RT. And we have a day two followed by planning adjustments and breakouts. So you have risks, and we do confidence vote. Like at the end of the meeting, we say, hey, are you all okay to deliver these objectives and features in the next 4+1 iterations? Only if the teams agree, we'll move on. Otherwise, we'll stay and try to discuss or answer all their questions. If nobody agrees, we still stay, and then we continue to the third day, and we'll try to solve the problems. Because what we believe is the team should accept, the team should understand. Only then we will move to the next phase. And you might say that, hey, because this is a bigger program that we are running and there might be some clarity required, there might be some uncertainties. How do you handle that? Yes, SAFe has the inbuilt capabilities of handling uncertainties, unclear requirements, and a confident, we say like no confidence on certain objectives and features, and we place it in the different bucket in the objectives. Uncommitted objectives, we are not going to commit them, but how we are going to work on, yes, there is a bigger theory about like how we are going to work on uncommitted objectives. So what is the process, how should you move to the uncommitted objectives? Yes, they are all to be discussed in the day one and day two. If anything is rework and retrospective, and this retrospective is not an entire retrospective or your Scrum team retrospective. A retrospective for a PI planning and facilitated by your RTE, but how better that we all can come together and then do our planning, because sometimes the first PI planning would not give you a miracle results, right? It needs some practice, it needs some expertise and understanding, knowing each other. Only then you participate well, and then you get a better execution plan. And over the period of time, you make a practice of it, and you better it. So that is what we are going to discuss. Like we wanted to communicate with each other that, hey, what should we do in a better way so that our PI planning gives us better outcomes. Okay, so that is the agenda of planning retrospective itself. And this is an excellent picturization of how your deliverables are planned. This is only talking about a planning. Okay. So now we are talking about like the backlog backlog. We have enablers and features. The enabler is nothing but a user story, a technical feature. And I have a train with 4 teams. Okay, team A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. And now for only pictorial representation, we have taken only 4 features. But in the real time world, each team can take more than 1 feature. So based on their capability, right? So, and we can't define a feature with a size, a right sized for only 1 team. I don't know what is the team size. I don't know which team is going to take care of this feature. I can't define the feature in such a way that it should work by this team for 4 iterations. So I can't do that. Sometimes you might get extra time. Sometimes you get extra feature where you have to share it with other teams. If the feature itself is a large feature and one team is not sufficient to deliver that, so you will be able to divide that into multiple smaller user stories and share it with other teams. And that is the beauty of this. We are not over promising. What we are trying to say is any feature that we are going to say that ART is going to deliver, yes, we are going to deliver. But remember that any feature that we take, it should be completed by one ART within one PI. You should not say, I'll do half feature in PI1 and then half feature in PI2, because the customer is going to wait until maybe 10 plus 10 weeks, 20 weeks or 25 weeks, and it is not going to give them any value. If you take a feature, plan yourself between like your teams. We don't have a restriction that 4 teams can also work on one feature if it is a large enough, and then prioritize and customer is waiting for that. You can still work, but make sure that it is completed within the PI. So what generally we do in the PI planning or before PI planning, so we convert the feature into a smaller list of user stories or a work item. And then when we go for iteration, 1 execution, 2 execution, 3 execution, right, we try to execute that. On PI planning day, what we will try to do, we will move a small list of user stories which are related to each feature by each team. So team 1 has taken, so let us say feature 2. Okay, and feature 2 is such a large feature where it requires, maybe it is divided into 40 different user stories. Okay, user story 1, 2, 3, 4, and remaining 40. So what team will do? So it will calculate the capacity of iteration 1, capacity here, capacity here, capacity here, and it will try to align all the iterations to complete the feature based on their availability on that day. And while doing that, it will consider the prioritization, dependency, and collaboration with other teams. Okay, so in the PI planning, they will only make sure that these work items are placed in to-do list. If you consider this is to do and this is done, they will only focus on to do. What is my to-do list or sprint backlog for a sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. Okay, and while executing, so what do we do? The train moves and the sprint 1 to-do list will be done, to-do list will be done, and iteration 3, iteration 4, and every team, not only one team. That is the beauty of the scaled agile framework. We are trying to synchronize. What is the meaning of synchronize? While a team 1 works on their user stories, there are other teams who are working on the similar concept of converting that into smaller stories and executing them and planning them and delivering them. And at the end of each sprint, we collaborate, we integrate, we demo, and we take the feedback. And this is what we do in PI1. And once you complete PI1, you go to IP iteration again, and you go for another IP iteration. Okay, so the content is vast here and safe, but with the time availability, I would say I would stop here for safe and start my introduction to ADO, Azure DevOps. Okay, so let me share the screen. ADO is another ALM tool. Okay, software lifecycle management tool that you must have seen or heard. And in recent past, there is a high demand for ADO. So one of the reason is Microsoft is making it with a lesser cost. Maybe less than $10 per user per year is very less cost for the organizations to bear with. And there is no magic in ADO, like it is similar to Jira, which you have been using. And the additional advantage is you get to connect with a lot of tools. So first one is the repos. So we call it as a repositories. And so the test management platform, maybe you still have something called as integrations to CI/CDs. And cloud, Azure cloud, mostly it supports Azure cloud. Even now we are making some kind of extensions or executables for integrating it with AWS and Google Cloud. Okay, so now they are adding, the Microsoft is focusing more on how we can make ADO, Azure DevOps. The name suggests Azure DevOps, but it is purely a board that is your project management board where you can handle your work. So now what we are going to do when it comes to ADO, so let me work on it. So there is no differentiation between a Scrum framework and Kanban view that you have in Jira. So let me give this with the help of a couple of comparisons between Jira, because why? You already have experienced Jira and you have been using Jira. In Jira, when you create a project, it will ask, hey, do you want to create it in Scrum or maybe a Kanban? And there are other templates like a RACI template or different work management tracking templates that you can use. But in ADO, we have one simple template. We call it as an Agile template. And there are customizations which are available in that. And you can make iterations and area paths and similar other work items. So based on this work items, you can make it. So are we doing a regular work management, or are we doing an Agile, a Scrum, or Agile Kanban? Okay. So I'm going to give you the link in the chat box. So let me give you, you can log into this Azure DevOps account and you can use Gmail or maybe Microsoft account and click on new organization. Okay, so don't do that. So what we are going to do here, not a practice, but I'll give you a high level overview of how ADO works and what is the difference between the Jira and ADO and what are the new benefits of ADO for you if you learn. Okay. And once you create a new project, it is like creating one project, and under the project, you can create multiple teams, and each team you can have one board associated with that. And there is no difference. Again, I'm repeating, there is no difference between a Scrum board or Kanban board. It is just a casual, a display board. And you can use it for Kanban and Scrum. What is the difference? The difference is iteration path. Okay. So where do we get iteration path? So let's now get into the experiments. So I've given this as a sprint, and let me use sprint one. And for me, the sprint one, what I've added is the start date and end date. My sprint has started on January 1st and ended on January 12th, which is 10 days, that is 2 weeks. And it will now give all the user stories that we have added onto the sprint. And this is a task board. Now there is a difference between task board and your Scrum board itself, right? In the Scrum board, if you talk about the Scrum board here, it will list all your stories. Where am I? Okay, this is all my epics, and here are my features. So I'll give you the difference between stories, features, and epics. Okay, so these are the stories for a sprint one, and this is a pictorial view of how my board looks like. And this is, you can call it as a Scrum board. And if you want a task board, what is a task board? Each user story again will be further divided into tasks, and those tasks can be managed. When you go for a daily Scrum meeting, you can talk about the task that, hey, I work on this user story and there are certain tasks and I'm working on task number 3. Or maybe we are collaborating and there is a person who is doing analysis and testing and all, and we create. And either Jira or ADO. So what we recommend or suggest is use only one user story for entire development and testing and whatever the integration that you do end to end. A story should not be created for an individual person or a task. It should be created for the benefit itself, the user story itself. And under that, you can create multiple tasks, and the representation of tasks will be You can see in the left hand side, you see sprints and you have a task board here. And the backlog, if you want to see the backlog, so the backlog I have not created for sprint 3, but this is the backlog that I've created, and this is for one sprint. Okay, let us start with the work items. So these are different work items that we have created. What is the work item? Work item is of anything of your choice, right? If I say new work item, so you can create a bug, you can create an epic, feature, issue, and task, test case, or user story. Majority of the times, when it comes to safe or maybe normal the Scrum way of working, so we use a standard work item name as a user story at a team level, and at a ART level we call them as a feature, and on top of ART, which is like a portfolio, we call them as a epic, and this is a standard across organization. And even in Jira supports this. Maybe the name might be different. I know these days the Jira is calling them as initiatives. Okay, initiatives, epics, features, and story. Okay, whatever the name that you use, but align with your organization's nomenclature or naming convention, and you can use that. Okay, so now I'll talk about epic. So I have an epic, and say let us say international expansion. So I have given most of my epics here with respect to Uber. Okay, so now let us say we are working on a Kanban team or a Scrum team, and we are working on some user stories of Uber. Okay, let's start with the overview. So this is the project. About the project, like you can, one person, maybe a Scrum master who is taking in charge, can do that, and you can invite team. Like these are like a team members, adding team members to this board, and you can tag. So tags could be anything, right? We are part of this art. We are implementing Scrum, Kanban, and we are also implementing so and so thing. So it tells whoever reads this for the first time or your team members that hey, we are doing these practices, or a DevOps, or maybe your repo name. So anything that could be can be your tags. And wiki is important. Like it is similar to your Confluence. Earlier, we were having two different things. One is Jira, and then the other one is Confluence, which are part of Atlassian community. So whatever that you're calling in your Confluence, so you can directly link it to your Jira, maybe vice versa. You can call or quote your ticket number there. So vice versa, it is happening. So what ADO has done. So instead of going to the other page, so you can keep all your information about your product document, repository, working agreements, or policies, whatever that you do at a team level, you can add it here. And dashboards, very very important. But with the availability of data which I've created in the recent week, so we could not get any visible widgets or dashboards, but there is a way that you see here. So if you add a widget, right, you can see assign to me. So if I add here, so it will give you assign to me. So let's this is one example. Okay, it is my name is Praveen Kumar, so I have these stories, the user stories which are assigned to me, and 4 features and 2 epics. And once you're done, you say done editing, and you can make your widgets or tables here and there, so you can make sure that your dashboard looks good. And there are multiple things, right? On top of that, there are also extensions which are available. You can also have plugins if your organization is paying for. These tools will help you to go for a time tracking and assigning and pie charts, widgets, history, burn down charts, so burn up charts, so chat for work items like maybe line graphs, I know, so multiple things, cumulative flow diagrams, cycle time, lead times. So these are the other things that we can explore. So once we are done, wiki. Wiki is a place where you add all action items, working agreements, the project documents, and the vision roadmaps and other things, right? So you can add here. So this is like your the folder list, and under each folder you can still have your subfolder. Let us say add subpage. So add subpage, let us say I will try to add a vision. Over vision, this we call is a markup page, but whatever that you copy here, and then it will go for a markdown support and it will close. Okay, so if you go again to the Uber, so what it will do, if you click here, this is the main page and it has sub pages, so you get all sub pages under here, and you can create new page with this, you can create new page with this, a different button. And the real important thing is boards. So you can use these functions to see recently updated or assigned to me. So let us say if I'm working on this, I wanted to see what are the things that are assigned to me. Okay. And what area path is this? And we are going to talk about area path and iteration path, which is a quite complex topic in ADO. But if you understand that topic, it is easier than Jira. So you can add columns, different columns. So what I wanted to say, I wanted to see the story points. Let us say column options. If you click on column options on the top, and add a new column. Say I wanted to see the story points. Yeah, if you see here, I added story points. If you type, and it will give add here. So I have not added any story points for any of the stories, but once you add, like you will get to know all the story points of each, and you can add comments. And if you don't want something, so go here and then remove comments or comment count, and that will be removed from your from the backlog. Okay, so these are my activity and recently updated, recently completed, created, and new work item when you want to create a new work item. And understand these are entire list of backlog. They are not part of sprint. They are not part of anything. They are like a plain to-do list. In Jira, you say a backlog, not on product backlog or sprint backlog, just a backlog. And if you want to open inquiries, like I wanted to do a complex query instead of making it only recently completed, recently created, I wanted to do a query. So go here and then open inquiries. It will open another page and you can customize with this. Now it has given me all the user stories that we have created. But editor, if you click on editor and then add a new clause and saying that I wanted to know all the stories where story points story points greater than or equal to 8. So I wanted to identify larger stories where I wanted to implement another refinement process. I want to convert that into a smaller stories. Now, if I press run query, so must be the answer is no, because I don't have any story points assigned. And you get all the list and you can download and you can send it to the teams that, hey, these are the stories where we need to work on. And along with that, we can make chats. Okay. So chat is disabled, unsaved. So we have not saved this query, right? So let me save this query, but I don't. So it is similar to Jira functionality. So now you have pulled one set of items based on your requirement, your query. You can save it, and once you save it, you can see that in my queries. Maybe you can name this as a large user stories, and you can run the dashboards on top of it, like how many people are working on it, like who has created it, which team has created it. If you are working on a larger project where in the project itself there are multiple teams, like 10 teams, and this is the right implementation tool for your scaled agile. So you treat your project, so where I call it as a lean Kanban. So okay, I've made a lean Kanban as a project, and I said, okay, this is my ART, Agile Release Train. Under lean Kanban, if I press this lean Kanban, and I have different teams. Okay, so this is my overview. Let me see. Okay, if I click on this, so I will get other teams. Okay, so first one is safe integration team, lean Kanban team, Global Agile COE team, Coaching Practice team, and Agile Portfolio team. Okay, these are my team names. But I am part of all these teams are part of one big ART, Agile Release Train, which is called as a Lean Kanban. And if you want to query it, you can query it on the multiple teams under one project. You can only query under one project, and you can't go out of this project. Okay, so now this is the right place that I can show you. So let us assume that I have an epic. Okay, so if you click on this item, it will show you how many features are there under one epic, and it will show you how many user stories are there under one feature. Okay, so now these are all for one team, and you decide when you are working on this. And I know this is just a backlog. If you see, this is just a backlog, and this is not assigned to the sprint. At a user story level, you can change, and this user story can be part of your sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, and nobody cares. But high level view of all the epics and features, you can see it in the backlog. So let me create one epic for you all. So if you click +1 here, okay, so it is not taking it. Seems I'll create here a test epic. I'll test epic for Uber Cloud. Or maybe I will not say test epic. So add to top. Okay, it will add to the top. Now I want to create certain features under this. So you see the plus button here. If you click the plus button, it will add a feature. So now it will add a feature under the epic which we have created for Uber Cloud. Okay, so I would say so AWS integrations for recent migrations. I know I save and close, and this is not only feature, right? So feature should have like maybe a comment and what state that you are in, what kind of a reason that you say. So let us say, is it new or something else? And state is, you can say new, and then after new, you can go back to the next state of in review, in progress, analysis, closed, complete, done, and what are the different statuses? And those statuses are very flexible. Rather than comparing with Jira, Jira has very rigid phase of using your state and statuses. But ADO is more flexible when compared to Jira when it comes to state and state. You can define on the fly, and you can add a state to that. And you still have a description, acceptance criteria, and a discussion. Your comments, discussion will come. So one of the major use of ADO, because it's as part of your Microsoft ecosystem. So if you mention certain name, so let us say I gave like @ I mention a name called as Praveen Kumar or something else, or Kumar. Okay, so it will add, and you get an Outlook email. Isn't it great? The moment you see the comment, the moment you see somebody has created, so you get a notification. Even Jira, you have a notification, but it is a flexible thing to add or tag someone, and someone will get a notification, and then they look at this story right from their inbox, and the user story opens, and they can work on it. And when you are into development team, your repos, your Jenkins pipeline, your CI/CD pipelines and DevOps things, and all is integrated in one board, including your wiki pages, like your Confluence pages, your tables, your action items, your retrospectives, your capacity planning. So everything can be done in one page. Okay, so let us say I have done AWS integrations for recent migration. Okay, I have added one feature. And I'm going to add another user story. So maybe if you want to add another feature, you place this, it will say add feature. And now I don't want to add a feature, I want to add a user story. Okay, so now you click on it, it will add a user story. So I say team 1 dependency. Okay, so now if you see the hierarchy, so I have created an epic, a feature and a user story. And in reality, like you don't have only one, you have a multiple features and user stories on top of that. And at a user story level, you can assign it to the teams and the iterations. By default, what we have added is a sprint one. This is what we call as a iteration path. Okay, so now you can change the iteration path to 1, 2, 3, any date that you can choose. So I want to create another iteration, and there is a way. So let me move from iteration 1 to iteration 2. This is as simple as that. Open the user story and move it to iteration 2 and save. So that will now move to iteration 3. And another thing that we all face some problem with Jira is, I mean, it is not a problem. It is an advantage for all the Scrum Master. When you complete sprint 1 and start sprint 2, it will give you a warning that, hey, all the user stories must be closed before you complete the sprint or close the sprint and start the new sprint. Until unless you complete, it will not let you to start new sprint. But in ADO, it's not the case. You can keep any of the user stories in any of the state and not move that to the next sprint and do whatever that you want. You can start the sprint 2, you can start sprint 3, you can start sprint 4, and let the previous stories can be of any status and any sprint that they want. There is nothing called a forceful incomplete work move to the next sprint. And maybe somebody misuse this. Somebody wants to use it in a favorable option, but I know this is how it works. So there is no compulsion to close the sprint and open the new sprint. You can still open the sprint at any point on the day, like where you reach that sprint start date. Okay, let us start like how to create the iterations and area paths. Project settings. Mostly the Scrum Masters were given access as an admin or maybe a team admin, and go there. So team configuration and project configuration, these are the only two that we got to use with respect to ADO. So let me go to team configuration. And the first one is like, what is your weekday, and how do you want your bugs to be considered as? Like somebody says a bug is not like a user story. For me, it is like a task. Okay, somebody says no, bug is equally treated as a user story for me, and it has some points, and you need to consider that into velocity and other metrics. Yeah, you can select that. Okay, so if you are saying bugs are managed with requirements, that means it is considered as a user story. Bugs are managed with tasks, that means it is one level down. Under the user story, you have tasks, right? If you create a bug, that will be treated as equal to user story if you click this option. And somebody says bugs are not managed on backlogs and boards. Like, hey, I don't care about that. Just create and then close. So we don't consider that for our tracking and other purpose. So you select working days and what all you have. I can only purely run on stories. I don't have any features and epics. Okay, you can unselect this. Or if you want extra things, right? If you want like a new set of work items, we call them as a work items, and you name it as feature, story, task, bug, or escape defect or anything. That is the name, but you need to have a work item. So now if you want to add anything, so there is something called as a customization page. You click on the customization page, it will let you select the type of work item that you can create. Okay, so there are something called issue, task, test case, test plan, test suite, user story. Okay, all these things, and you also have a backlog levels. So issue type could be, when it comes to safe, you want to create a dependency mapping. You want to create a risk item, and a risk is a simply risk, and it is not a user story or a task or epic, right? You need a separate item for that to represent, and you can create all such type of things in the form of an issue, and you can use it like a RACI metrics. You can use it maybe assigning non-deliverable tasks in the form of an issue. It is the name. Issue is not really an issue. It is the name given to the work item. Just understand that. And if you want to rename the name, itself, like you can create something else, right? Task or work or something else. Okay, projects. So I have now created one project which is called as a lean Kanban, and I can still change the process. So now I am under the process which is called as agile, but I can change the target process as the basic CMMI and the Scrum. Okay, most of the organization they choose agile because it is plain. And what happens in CMMI and the basic and the Scrum? So they have the similar levels, but the way they operate in accordance to so what CMMI says. Most of us are in safe or Scrum, so this is enough. And you still have a customization. So what are these customizations? That hey, I want epic hypothesis statement when I go for epic. So I'll show here. So work item types, I want to go here epic, and epic layout is this. States, I have different states. So I have, these are the only states that I can see: new, active, resolved, closed, removed. But I want to add a new state. So let us say in analysis or waiting for approval. And that should be the state in your epic. And the standard ADO will not give you all these the customizable states, and you got to come here. Maybe your admin will have access to create a new state for you, and you can, and that acts as a new column in the ADO board. And let us see the layout. So in the layout, you have something called a deployment time, priority, the risk, the effort required, business value, time criticality, start date, the classification, and all, right? So if you want to add a new thing, so again, you can create a new group itself and new field or new page on Epic description, and that will be added to the Epic. And remember, we are not changing for a team. So let us say the team name is, or a project name is Lean Kanban. And even for one team, if you change, it will impact all the team's work items in the Lean Kanban. And we are not even changing the project level. What we are changing is the template level. All the teams in your organization, let us say there are 100 teams or projects which are using the template as Agile. And if you're adding something to your configuration, it will impact the entire Agile processes which have been used by multiple teams. And the same case with your Jira. Underlying to your enterprise architecture of Jira, so there are certain processes that the organization defines. If you want to add any field or remove or maybe modify, change of any kind of a layout, it will not only impact you, it will impact all the people who are using that kind of an architecture. So that is the reason most of the organizations, they say, okay, so follow whatever that you want, but if you want like multiple teams who wanted that new feature, so they can go ahead and then enable the feature. What we have decided in my organization, because we don't want to let the teams go with empty hands, so we have created multiple templates. So if a team like say Uber team wants this process to be created with a lot of customizations, not only epics in the features, in the project management tasks, maybe sometimes they come up with a priority incidents. You all know incident, right? So if something goes wrong in the production, they raise a production incident, but there is no way that I can differentiate a user story with a production incident. And in the recent request, somebody said like, I want to create a production incident, but this is a purely new type of a request, and it should have something called UAT and production and impact and the root cause analysis and other fields to be added. So what we have made, we have created a template for them. So we have taken Agile as a template and created something called, so if you talk about this project, so Agile as a template is used by one project for now, which is Lean Kanban. And in your organization, if you see, you will be seeing multiple projects which are using this Agile. And if you still want to create something, create an inherited process. Okay, you create an inherited process and you say this as Agile underscore Uber, and you give some description, template details, and what are the changes that you create. You create a new process, and this process will be available for all to use. If there is another team that wanted same process as what Uber team is using, we say that, okay, go and use this template, and I don't want to create a new template for you. And we are not changing the parent template, right? Agile template still stays good because the customizations or the changes are only for few teams. Okay, so let me go back to the previous discussion of go to project setting and go to team configuration. And what we have discussed is like the general and the templates. We have discussed like, there are multiple things that you have. So let us say I have a feature. Okay, go to here and create a new template kind of a thing. And you want to add a new field, maybe, save the template somewhere and name it, and you can reuse that. These are all one-time activities. Again, these are available. You should know, but don't practice every day. What you got to do is areas. Okay. Lean Kanban is one area. What is area? Area, you can say each team is equal to one area path. You can say area path is something I want to differentiate. This is one project Lean Kanban and I have 10 different teams. I want to differentiate which backlog goes to which team, because at this level of backlog, it is a project level backlog, not a team level backlog. Team level backlog only comes when we select the team. And that selection, if you assign area path to one certain team, it will take it as a area path. If you say here, this is a team, right? Lean Kanban team, and I have other teams. Okay, let me go to Agile portfolio team. And now I moved my team to Agile portfolio team. If you talk about this area path, my area path is, this is the project name Lean Kanban, and Agile portfolio team is my area path. If all the user stories which are assigned to this area path will be displayed in Agile portfolio team. And you can also differentiate. Let us say in one team you have two different type of work items that you do. One is purely production support work item. The second one is the development work items. So what I will do, how to identify them as two different work items when you are creating a filters, when you're identifying the only pure production support work, because you want to get a metrics out of the prod support work items if someone asks you. So I go here and create a new chain, and I keep an area name as prod support and save. If you see here, so Lean Kanban is a project name, area Agile portfolio team is a team name, and the prod support is your sub area. It is not a team, but you're differentiating. You're differentiating within the own team. Like I have two members who continuously work on prod support, and there are remaining teams who work on the development. That is how you can differentiate where your ticket or user story goes to, and this helps you in pulling your data. Right, and maybe in daily Scrum meeting or retrospective meeting, if you want to see a record of like how many tickets have been closed in the product support, so you can use that. Iterations, very, very important. Okay, so let me again go back to Lean Kanban team. So the current default iteration is the current iteration, whatever the current iteration that you are selecting. Maybe, if you don't have a the current iteration created for a current date, the last iteration that you might have created acts as a current iteration. So now I have created three iterations. The iteration is nothing but a sprint, as I said. So sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. Sprint 3 is closed on 2/9. Okay. So now if I select create new, I'm creating new, automatically it will say, so I've done sprint 4, and it will select the new date, which is after 2/9. So what is after 2/9? February 9th, and you have Saturday, Sunday as holiday, and then the next date is 12. And it has already populated because based on the previous history, right? What we have selected previous history means a sprint 1 is 2 weeks, sprint 2 is 3 weeks, sprint 4 is 2 weeks, and now automatically when I select the next day as 12, and it has taken end date as 223, and it gives us the same. So now what I've created is sprint 4, which is 223. And if I create another new and iteration name, it says it will not take. You have to give the name explicitly. And if you keep on start date, it will give the next date. Okay, you can simply select it, and then it will update the 2 weeks as end date, and it'll create. And this, what we generally say to the Scrum Masters, hey, create it for about like 10 sprints and leave it, because you know only until 10 sprints, and after that we never know whether we are going to move to the 3 week sprint cycle, or we want to change it to the next name. Sometimes, hey, I don't run my sprint as sprint 99, sprint 190, sprint 290, right? So I change something. Maybe, I dissolve the team and reopen the team. Maybe, I again start with the sprint one. We never know what it happens. So I said, like, okay, anytime that you're creating a new set of sprints, you create it for next 10 sprints. So which is enough for us. And always the default iteration is the current iteration which is running. So the current iteration for us is like July 6th. It is not there, and hence it takes whatever the new user story that you create, it goes for the last sprint that is available. Okay, it will go and assign to the last sprint. And the backlog iteration is lean Kanban. So what is the backlog iteration? The backlog iteration is whenever you create any stories, right, it won't know. And I'm not assigning to any team like Agile portfolio team or any team, and not area, but just I said like, oh, create. By default it will go to lean Kanban. If you want by default to be changed to something else, okay, so you can change it to sprint 1, 2, 3 or anything of that sort, and you can set. And this also current iteration you can also set to the different path. So we have seen the general here and iterations, and we have created a couple of iterations. And you can remove, you can change, you can create a new child under things, and the area paths you can create, and templates. What we have seen, you can add different type of bugs or tasks or test cases. And another thing what you can go for is a project configuration. Generally, all the teams for lean Kanban, will be shown here. So let us say I don't want to see lean Kanban. Okay, so this is at a lean Kanban level. I have created 5 sprints, which are maybe ending at 3/8 and 2024. So now let's see the areas. How many teams that I have? I have 4 different teams, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams, and each team is assigned with this team name. Okay, so one more important thing is you can assign this area path to the same team. That means you can create 3 or 4 area paths and also assign the team name as one, so Agile portfolio team, and you can play this. Why you can do this? I mean, what made us to select this path is like a portfolio view. So there was a requirement in the recent organization that I worked for. So they said, like, I have 3 teams, A, B, C, and the 3 teams are working on different work items, but I wanted a portfolio view of one team, but I'm not doing anything, I'm just watching. If I go there, I should only see all the work items which are worked up upon by A, B, C teams. So now I go there, I create a team name, a special team name, so that if I create a team name, it will display as a board. And I add the areas like 1, 2, 3 areas for one team. I say consolidated team, and I added like area 1, area 2, area 3. What internally it will do, it will pull all the tickets or user stories that have been assigned to these area paths, and it will display to the consolidated thing. And it will not do anything. We are not modifying, we are not doing anything. Okay, so that is another portfolio or consolidated benefit that you can do with the areas as at a project level. This is at a project configuration level and not at a team configuration level. Okay, so iterations again at a project configuration level. So if I create iterations at a lean Kanban level, most probably the same iteration will be available for all the teams. Okay, let us check this. So I have created 5 sprints here, and I'm choosing coaching practice team. Okay, and I'm going to iterations. Okay, so it has not taken, but so there is a way that you can take a global advantage of the lean Kanban. Okay, why it has taken this? Select iterations. Okay, lean Kanban. Okay, so now we have to select. I mean, this is available. So what we need to do is how many iterations that we are selecting will be available under this team, coaching practice team, and these are the global iterations what we have created at a project level. And once you select and then update here, so you will be able to see on your team level. And other agent pools, parallel jobs, settings, and test management. These are not for a Scrum Masters. Again, these are advanced things when you have a repos. Again, to show you as a practice. Maybe I have not created any repos where I have had a cloud and DevOps installed on my machine. So maybe at a different date, we can also look at the repositories and storage artifacts and other test cases, test suits. For now, we will only focus on the general boards. Okay, the other thing is permissions. If you are given a board administration, you will have a permission to add your team members. So definitely in an organization, there are global admins and a team admins. At a team level, you cannot create a new project, but you can create a team under the project and you can add people to the projects. So how do you do that? You go to the users and create. So because most of them are in your organization, so you keep your user search. So maybe I would like to search Lakshmi, and if it is, I mean, if this user is not available, it will not show. One more important thing that you need to consider is by default, the username will be available here in the list because they are all into Microsoft ecosystem. However, before adding to this, you need to check with the user or a admin, global admin team, whether the user has got an access and a license to the ADO. So most of the times we seem to add the people to here, but that person will not be able to access the board and move the tickets here and there. So only one way is the person should be given ADO license. So if you want to practice internally, so when you go back home, so you will be given maybe a free access for about like 6 months, so that you can create a project, and under project you can create a lot of teams and create user stories and move here and there and look at the widgets, look at what kind of a dashboards, and if you have a permission, maybe you can add a couple of your friends to make access of these boards so that they can create and they can do whatever that they want. And before we do that, what we wanted to do is make it as a, so if you go for the project here, make it as a public. Okay, if you make it public, your friends or maybe whomsoever that you're working will have access to edit a user story, edit a work item from your project. Okay, so we are under boards, and this is very important where we go for. So we have a backlog, and in the backlog you see epics, features, and user stories. And if you see sprints, I should go for sprint 3 or 2. So I was only having one team because I've added iteration 3 for this sprint 3 and capacity. Okay, so when you go for maybe sprint 1, let us say, okay, a sprint 1, and let us say I have added all the team members here, and I wanted to see how many people are available. And what you need to do is like, hey, this guy will say, I am available, I'm unavailable for these 2 days. Okay, so and those 2 days, so we can go for, okay, let me make somebody. Yeah, thanks for that. So they can make their unavailability so that we get a global capacity at a team level, and based on that, we go for that. And in the latest ADO, you can have additional plugins here, the retrospectives. So in the retrospectives under sprints, you will have something called retrospectives boards. You can do a speedboat technique. You can do, glad, mad, sad, or any kind of a template that you can create on the fly. So they have a predefined templates, and all the it acts as the whiteboard for you, all anonymous too, and you can run your retrospective, and from there you can create a user story as an action item, so that will sit on your product backlog. So now they're making a more robust and a more user friendly, to include all kind of the Scrum activities, maybe estimation activities and all into their ADO. And on top of this, they have like now AI adoption, by using different plugins and gadgets. So we can make this is a plain vanilla that every organization and enterprise gets when they buy. Enterprises will also be given additional plugins for free of cost for a certain number of years. So what we are experimenting in my organization is a pipelines and roadmaps. Okay, so when we go for the backlogs, on top of analytics, we get another tab here as a roadmap. Like, what is this roadmap? If you see in the Gantt charts or maybe agile roadmaps, where is this feature or epic landing? So the feature epic one is we are doing it quarter 1, epic 2 is quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, maybe next year. So I'll be seeing a roadmap, a view of my all work items, who will be assigned, which team is assigned, and when I'm going to release it, when I'm going to be responsible for deliverables, right? So that I can plan accordingly. Like, okay, this is my feature priority for iteration 1, iteration 2, and iteration 3. So I can select the start date and end date. So it gives a holistic view of the MPP, Microsoft Project Plan view for ADO. Okay, so with this, we have come to an end of this session, and now the floor is open for any questions. So you can use your chat box for asking me any questions on this. From here, you can go to view as a board. So you can directly go as a board here, or maybe view as a backlog the same way. And when you go here, you can add column options. You can remove the columns or add some columns, whatever that you want. And there is one way that filter you, if you see here, this is a filter, and I want to see where the iteration path 3 user stories. See, now here, like, there are only 3 different things that are part of my iteration 3, and I want to see iteration 2. Okay, there are something. I want to see iteration 1. There are multiple things that I have. Okay, so now let's not work on the sprint 1 and iteration. So let's say I want to see area path. So I want to see this lean Kanban as 1, because I've not assigned externally the iteration path. It is giving me all by default. But if I have, let us say, like multiple iteration paths and area paths, now this gives you flexibility to filter easily, right? You don't need to write any queries and all. It's a easy filtration for a portfolio level person. And tags. So I wanted to see all prod support, or maybe, so high priority one. Okay, you give the tag to your own user story or epic, and then I get it easily. And assign to states. Okay, I wanted to see all the closed stories and epics. I wanted to see active one and new one. Okay, and assign to. So I wanted to see, like, maybe, there are multiple people in your team, and what type. So okay, I'm only focusing on bugs. So how many bugs are there? I'm only focusing on tasks. How many tasks are there? Okay, so if I have anything, then it will select. Otherwise, it'll give a random. Okay. With this, I would like to hand over to Lakshmi, and what we have with the Safe. Okay, so let's get back to Safe. The teams who are using Safe, having like 30% happier and more motivated employees, 50% faster time to market, and 35% increase in the productivity, and 50% defect reduction. This is what we are not saying. And the Scaled Agile has done the interviews and surveys with Fortune 500 companies, and the benefits that they have realized over the past 11 years, so are here. So we are not saying like we will change dramatically 100% of your goals oriented thing, right? So there are certain places where we take time, but definitely if there is a problem of collaboration, coordination, dependency mapping and all, safe is going to help you. And that said, nowadays all the organizations, maybe a Fortune 500 organization, especially your product management companies, so they are moving from the basic Scrum level of implementation to scale level implementation. And if you want to learn more about what we teach at safe, so we have next week, July 13th and 14th, we have a class. So you, whosoever is interested, you can reach out to Lakshmi and we can work on that. And with that said, over to you, Lakshmi.
All right. Thank you very much, Praveen, for the wonderful session and a lot of insights, especially in the safe. And I think a lot of my previous students, they got very good insights. I never showed them the ADO, and this is very, very good. It's really a lot, and it is much more than what I have imagined. But at least a quick high-level glimpse, this session will help us, most of the students, to have the good start. And thank you very much for sacrificing your family time, weekend time, and coming here and sharing your valuable insights. Anyone has any questions, team? Please feel free to ask. We have Praveen. Very rarely we get. So I allowed the participants to unmute as well. You can unmute, raise your hand. You can ask anyone. I will be sharing the recording as well. And if any of you are really interested in the you have seen like most of the large organizations, they are using the SAFe as their preferred scaled agile, the large scale Scrum. So if you and they are preferring the certified Scrum Master. So if you want that training as well, so we have the next weekend. The training is coming. You can reach me, whoever is interested, and all of you have my number as well. And I can see most of you are my students, and the cost is $500. That includes a 2-day training program, and also we have the examination fee included in that. So it comes with a certification, whoever is interested in this. And yeah, please feel free to make use of this valuable time. We have Praveen with us. Any questions related to the safe, he's here. Everyone clear?
Ye-
Surprising, silent. Ifyoma, go ahead.
Hi, how are you, sir? Good afternoon, and thanks for the.
Good afternoon. Long time. Yeah.
Yeah, even though I wasn't here at the beginning, but I saw the part where he put Epic before features, and then
Uh-huh.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. Right.
how
So
it is in scaled agile.
this this is a naming convention, Ifyoma. So how you name the large value, it depends. Especially in safe, like in Scrum, when we are learning, right? I was explaining like you have the feature broken sliced to the epic sliced to the user stories. In the Jira also we have the same taxonomy, how we break down and how we represent the naming. So we have the epics in Jira and epics are being broken down. I think in Azure DevOps it's the other way.
Other
So
way
we have
around,
the
yeah.
epics. Yeah, we have the epics. Epics are sliced to features. Features are sliced to the stories.
So you're saying is according to the kind of software you're using. If you're using Jira, you do the other way around. If you're using Azure
Right,
DevOps, you do
right. Yep,
Epic
yep, yep.
feature.
These are basically tools, Ifyama. So it's not related to the software. It's more about the ways of working. And if you are implementing safe, this is the safe taxonomy, how we break down that large value into smaller chunks, the naming convention that we use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem at all. So Shyam, yeah, $500 that includes the examination fee. Yep. And Shyam, you are from India. That we are doing a little bit lesser price for the people from India than that $500.
What about us from Nigeria, Mr. Lakshmi? We too have good like
I know, I know. So yeah, if you are really interested, Look, it's already, if you see my old post like 1 year back, it was 600. And I really pushed Praveen hard, and Praveen also understood the challenging global situation. And we know everywhere, people are losing jobs, that inflation and everything, people are struggling to save money. That's where in my post and this entire year, starting from January, we made it to 500. So that is already lowered. Maybe 30, $40 here, but we can't really go less than that one, if you
Okay.
because the examination fee is included in that price, and then no, Praveen has to spend 2 days full time.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Yomi, it is a 2-day standard training program. Praveen is a licensed safe trainer from Scaled Agile, Yomi. So it is a standard 2 day as per the standard. Yes,
So, sir, do you do the exam over and over again, or it's just a one-off exam?
it's a 2 times attempts will be there. After that, you will be doing a $50. I think you have to pay, but
Yeah.
most of our students they join with first attempt.
Yeah. And we
Sorry,
made a
they
practice,
complete.
they
Yeah,
complete in the
so.
first attempt, as you said, Lakshmi. So we
Mm.
have a practice test, and you can do multiple times, maybe to practice and to gain the confidence. Once you are hitting like 80% in the practice test, you can attempt the main examination.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
But I just
Yomi is
wanted to know
asking.
that it's one-off, like it's not something they'll say come and renew after some years, something.
Yes, it comes with a renewal, but what we suggest is, based on the usage, right? If you go for an organization, the organization pays for the renewal, and if you're learning for your, education purpose or learning purpose, I would say wait for joining any of the team as a scaled agile scrum master or RT or whatever the role that you're playing, and make use of that. So renewals are not mandatory, but good to have.
No, but when you're renewing it, are you going to write the exam again?
No, it's a one-time examination, and the second time is just like renewing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Yomi, you got the answer right. It is 8 hours on Saturday, 8 hours on Sunday. So next dates you can see it on the flyer that I'm on the doing the screen share. It's 13th, next Saturday. I mean, like, it's like this time you will be in the class. So 13th and 14th of July, the USA time 6 o'clock, 8 hours. So and then Sunday 8 hours. And then Monday you can write the exam and get the certificate. Ajit, it's not really hands-on, but Praveen, as you have seen, like, he's having extensive practical experience. He's going to reflect all those experience in the class. However, he has to follow the safe standard set of guidance. Uh, to have the hands-on, for example, he has to bring the Azure DevOps or Jira or something, right? Normally, the safety, they don't really encourage. Praveen, please correct me if I'm wrong. You are not authorized to pull the third party or promote or defame any third party
Right,
things,
right,
right? Yeah.
right. So it's a standard content that we need to follow. Maybe we can complement it with other tools, but should be covering the content, like, which is about 350 slides, which is a huge. Uh, on top of it, yes, we'll be not giving you assignments and practical things, but there are certain tools like on top of Jira. Jira and ADO is for team level, I would say, and there are tools on top of it where we run PI planning and problem solving workshop. We run IP iterations and how we can showcase it in iteration 1, 2, 3, 4, and everything will be shown with the tools. So you can practice, and it is freely available. So what the tool that I use is PI planning.io, where most of the organizations use it, and it will be helpful to showcase the dependency mapping between all the teams.
Thank you, Praveen. Anyone, any final questions, please? It's already my time, 11 o'clock here. Perfect. If any of you are interested, please feel free to reach me. I will be happy to share more information. And this recording will be available in the Telegram, and I will be uploading in the YouTube channel as well. And I will share this with all of you on your WhatsApp as well. Okay, team. Praveen, thank you once again for this wonderful session and for your valuable time. No, thanks a lot. Thank you, team.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Stopping the recording.